Route 66 is America's favorite highway, but in the 40s and 50s era, it meant death for most black people. Don't be fooled by Hollywood's version of the Green Book. This is what really happened. No other road has captured the imagination and the essence of the American dream quite like Route 66. It was called the Mother Road because it connected urban and rural America from Chicago all the way to Los Angeles, crossing 8 states and 3 zones. After the Great Depression, Route 66 was an escape route from poverty to those in search of a better life. The 2,440-mile Road of Dreams symbolized a pathway to easier times and a new beginning. It was one of the few U.S. highways laid out diagonally, and it cut across the country like a shortcut to freedom. But even though that message went out to all Americans, it was really only meant for white Americans. Just before construction, 1 year before construction began on Route 66, the Chicago Tribune newspaper suggested in an editorial on August 29, 1925, that black people should avoid recreational sites altogether. The article said, and I quote, "We should be doing no service to the Negroes if we do not point out that a very large section of the white population, the presence of a Negro, however well behaved, among white bathers is an irritation. This may be a regrettable fact to the Negroes, but is nevertheless a fact, and it must be reckoned with." End of quote. And it also goes on to say the Negroes could make a definite contribution to good race relationship by remaining away from beaches where their presence is resented. Not only were blacks shut out of pools and beaches, blacks couldn't eat or sleep or even get gas at most white-owned businesses, at most gas stations. So to avoid the humiliation of being turned away, blacks often traveled with portable toilets, bedding, gas cans, and ice coolers. Even Coca-Cola machines had white customers only printed on them. Oh wow. In 1930, 44 out of 89 counties that lined Route 66 were all white communities, and they were known as sundown towns, places that banned blacks from entering city limits after dark. Some posted signs that read, "Nigger, don't let the sun set on you here." Now, Route 66 started out in Illinois, a state that itself had nearly 150 sundown towns. The road, Route 66, certainly did not mean freedom for everyone, and it bore witness to some of the nation's worst acts of crime and racial terrorism. Today, politicians and television anchors speak of terrorism and as though it was some new phenomenon to the United States. But terrorism in the USA is not new, and to think so is egregious oversight, and it's a slight and an insult to the nation's native people, to its multitudes of immigrants, and to its legions of black Americans, all of whom have long been terrorized for calling America their home. In fact, even before Route 66 was officially connected and enshrined, the roads that would come to form Route 66 linked one terror to the next terror. Now listen to this. One violent night in 1906 in Springfield, Missouri, which would soon become the birthplace of Route 66, though the road starts out in Chicago, the route was officially designated as 66 in Springfield. Well, during a grisly lynching on Easter weekend, a vigilante white mob dragged Mr. Horace Duncan and Mr. Fred Coker to the town square, hanged them, burned their bodies while thousands watched. Then they distributed their body parts among the crowd as keepsakes. That really happened. That's not the worst of it. In 1921, the Tulsa race riot erupted in the Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was one of the nation's most devastating acts of terrorism against African Americans. You see, Greenwood, in case you didn't know this, was an unusually vibrant community of very successful black entrepreneurs, black doctors, black lawyers, and black businessmen. As a matter of fact, Booker T. Washington called it Black Wall Street, and it was in fact the wealthiest black neighborhood and black area in the South. But after a young black man was wrongfully accused of assaulting a white woman, an angry lynch mob broke out. Long-held jealousies over black prosperity and Greenwood's wealth ignited a riot. A white mob of mostly poor whites set the neighborhood on fire. And after 16 hours, at least 300 blacks had died, and over 35 blacks of Greenwood District had burned to the ground. And more than 10,000 black people, black residents, had all their homes burnt, and they were homeless. You see, on Route 66, every mile was a minefield. Businesses with 3 K's in the title, such as Cozy Cottage Camp, spelled with the K instead of a C, or the Clean Country Cottages, spelled with the K instead of a C, were a code for the Klan, and they only served whites. When you hear the song, "Get Your Kicks on Route 66, you need to know what it really means. So black motorists had to avoid sundown towns such as Edmond, Oklahoma. In the 1940s, the Royce Cafe, located right on Route 66, proudly announced its postcards, "No Negroes." Every stop along Route 66 was a fear of potential danger and death for black people. Many black people had to wear a chauffeur's hat or a railroad worker's hat as a disguise. Don't believe the Hollywood movies, such as The Green Book. That only gives you a mild, watered-down version of the reality of traveling while black. Hollywood has taken one of the worst and hideous times in American history for black people, and they cleaned it up, they whitewashed it, they gave it a pretty name, and got a black actor to play a fake role, and they made money off of the terror that really happened. Terror was on Route 66 for blacks. You better know your history. Just know history in general. Hollywood will totally fool you and make things seem much milder than they actually are or were. And isn't it ironic how the stories told always end up a profit, or a story that's for profit or for financial gain for everyone in Hollywood except for the victims themselves and their families? Green Book left out the blood and the gore and the terror, but they profited from it. Don't believe the hype. Route 66 was not a great place. Well, like, subscribe, read for yourself. This is a Marologic channel.